everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to center your clay. So as you can see, I put my clay on my bat, I push in it a little bit, and I get my hands wet. I'm using my right fist and my left palm to pull up, and now I'm using both palms. I have my thumbs at the top, so that way the top doesn't get too off-centered. I call this pulling up and pushing down. Like I said, I'm using my left palm to push the clay up and my right fist to push it down. Now I do this for two reasons. The first reason is it helps center the clay. So this is an easy way to center your clay without pushing so hard and getting frustrated. I also do this because it gets rid of air bubbles. Now you should have gotten rid of most of your air bubbles by this point because you should have wedged your clay before you put it on your bat. And I show you how to wedge your clay in another video. But if you don't wedge your clay that well, this method also helps get rid of most of the air bubbles by pushing the clay up and then pushing it back down. I'm going to do this a few times, and now it's pretty center. The bigger the clay, the more times I do it, but this piece is about 1.5 pounds, so I only did it about 3 or 4 times. Now I'm using a sponge to clean off my bat. I like to do this because it helps with cleanup process later in the studio time. But now my clay is ready to center and open and pull up walls. Now I'll show you how to do that in another video. This piece of clay is a little bit bigger. It's about 4.5 pounds, but don't get intimidated by the size. Turn on your wheel, grab your sponge, and get it a little bit wet. You want your clay to be wet so your hands glide over the surface, but you don't want it to be soaking. If your clay is soaking, when you go to pull up the walls and form a shape, it'll be too wet and it'll have too much water in it and it won't hold its shape. So you want to get it nice and wet, but not too wet. And as you can see, I'm using my left palm and really pushing the clay in as hard as I can. And now I'm using both of my fists to pull up. As you can see, the clay is not very centered right now, but don't worry, the more times I pull up and push down, the more centered it'll be. I'm using my thumbs to make sure that the top stays pretty even. If it gets a little out of control, it gets harder to center, so I like to stabilize it as much as I can. But as you can see, it's not very centered yet. Now I'm pushing back down with my fist and using both of my palms to pull up. Like you can see right here, I'm using my thumb to even out the top. Now I'm starting all the way at the bat and working my hands all the way up. You want to start all the way at the bottom and work your way all the way to the top to make sure it's very centered. At this time, it's pretty centered, so I'm usually just trying to keep it as centered as possible, so I'm pushing in still as hard as I can, and now I'm pushing down, just trying to keep everything from wobbling. I'm finishing up now, it's almost centered, so now I'm going to stop. And like I said, in another video, I'll show you guys how to pull open walls, but this is just supposed to teach you how to center.